There'll be a transition cost and transition problems, but in the end, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Today on the Morning Edition, President Trump expressing confidence and optimism over his tariff tactics as markets tank once again, the latest on the escalating trade war with China. Plus, a funding boost for schools and a firm warning from the governor how the education debate in Juneau could trigger a veto showdown and why the real fight may just be starting.
It wanted its breakfast martini and was trying to get served.
A St. Louis restaurant got an unusual early guest, and we're not talking about a brunch regular. The wild way this four-legged patron crashed through as the Morning Edition starts now. Good Friday morning, everyone. It's been a snowy week, and if you head outside this morning, it's going to be real slushy on those roads.
Yeah, those roads can be quite dicey across South Central, particularly in Anchorage, out towards the Kenai, where we've seen most of that snow accumulation. Now, this is a live look coming in from Town Square Park. You can see that snow that did accumulate through the night, and we have seen some melting take place, so be careful on those roadways. Temperatures are holding near freezing as you get out on those roads this morning. We're still holding on to some pockets of some light snow showers that are still occurring, particularly as you head through northern parts of the interior part of the Kenai Peninsula, as well as here in the Anchorage Bowl and western parts of the Susitna Valley. Out towards Prince William Sound, we do have some light rain with some snow embedded within that will continue this morning. But as far as what we are expected to see today, things will begin to quiet down here over the next couple of hours. Most of this snow will come to an end. But really, as you head east of Sterling, out towards Cooper Landing, through Turnagain Pass, out towards Hope, even as you head out towards Portage, Girdwood, Alyeska, and even here in the Anchorage Bowl, this is where we're continuing to hold on to some of that light snow accumulation. We've seen several inches over the past 24 hours, some of the highest totals amounting to about 5 to 10 inches in some of those harder hit areas. And you can see here over the next couple of hours, we could still pick up an inch or so of that additional rounds of some accumulation. Of course, as you head through the Chugach Range, Kenai Mountains, down through Turnagain Pass, Whittier, Portage, this is where we're going to continue to hold on to that potential for additional rounds of some snow, particularly as we welcome in the weekend, as we are watching another storm system that's primarily going to impact coastal regions, but we will see inland areas holding on to a chance for some snow, if not some wintry mix. There's a look at those roads this morning. This is out towards the C Street Bridge, courtesy of Borealis Broadband. You can see those temperatures holding near freezing. That drive time index on a scale of 1 to 5 sitting at 3 due to those wet and slushy road conditions. And you could encounter some of those slick conditions as well. Temperatures today may nose their way into the upper 30s, but still expecting some cooler weather before those temperatures do warm into the weekend and next week. I'll have more on that, how much snow we've seen across South Central, as well as that 7-day forecast coming up.
The biggest problem they have is they don't have enough time in the day. Everybody wants to come and make a deal. And we're working with a lot of different countries, and it's all going to work out very well.
President Trump defends his tariff reversal as his administration says trade partners are eager to negotiate. Still, it turned into a roller coaster day on Wall Street after steep gains disappeared as investors grappled with tariffs as high as 145%. New this morning, this week's Wall Street whiplash highlighting the uncertainty in the economy as China again retaliates today with even higher tariffs on U.S. goods in a quickly escalating trade war. Alice Barr reports from Washington.
A wild week on Wall Street, winding down with another downturn on Thursday, erasing part of Wednesday's historic recovery as investors eye the growing trade war with China. President Trump with his cabinet acknowledging what he calls short-term pain.
There'll always be transition difficulty.
While insisting negotiations are going well with other trading partners who got a 90-day reprieve in punishing tariffs and suggesting China could follow.
I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries.
No sign of that yet, with the White House clarifying total tariffs on Chinese imports are now 145%, including a previous fentanyl-related penalty. China's retaliatory 84% tariffs now in place on American goods. The rift in that critical trade relationship set to drive up prices as small businesses, like this Utah hobby shop and its customers, brace for impact.
I'm a little nervous that I'm not going to get some of the product I ordered or I'm going to have to pay more for stuff.
The instability making market forecasters like J.P. Morgan Chase stick with predictions that the U.S. economy could tip into a recession. while on a separate front, the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to reverse course on a Maryland man who was wrongly deported to an El Salvador prison. After days of dispute, the High Court saying the administration must facilitate the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, though the justices did not back all of a lower court's ruling ordering his retrieval, saying the White House deserves deference to conduct foreign affairs. Back on the economy, some good news with a new report showing inflation cooled in March from the month before, more than expected. Though that data comes from before the trade war really started ratcheting up, with economists expecting tariffs to drive prices up once again. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
The president says his tariff policy is bringing in $2 billion a day in new revenue that can offset the tax cuts that are part of a budget deal working its way through Congress.
We call it the great big beautiful bill. It's a beauty. There's never been a bill like this one. We're trying to get it all into one beautiful bill. It's tax cuts, regulation cuts, and many other things.
The House vetoed 216 to 214 to adopt the budget blueprint after Republican leaders got support from conservative holdouts who wanted deeper spending cuts. The vote sets the guidelines for House and Senate negotiators to draft a budget bill implementing the president's agenda. Alaska crude fell another $2.50 yesterday, closing at $66.29. Despite earlier gains this week, the price has dropped more than $10 a barrel since the start of the month. Turning to Capitol coverage, the Senate hits the floor this morning, ready to debate a bill that could boost school funding by $1,000 per student. That's the per-student funding that's already been highly debated, and much more debate is expected on the floor this morning. But Governor Dunleavy isn't on board, threatening a veto over what he calls a joke of a bill. The stakes are high, and the fight over education funding is front and center today.
You know, right now we're kind of dealing with the closest alligator to the boat, and that's the mid alligator and a far alligator. And right now the closest one is tomorrow with amendments and a bill that we know is going to fail. So we want to take care of that one, then we'll start thinking about what may happen next.
The governor says the bill fails to improve educational outcomes or support charter and homeschools. He also claims it's a strong-arm tactic, pushing hundreds of millions in new spending without any accountability. The governor's proposed budget includes a more than $1.5 billion deficit.
April is Poetry Appreciation Month. I'm Kiara Hayes, and I will be reading What Women Are Made Of by Bianca Lynn Spriggs.
That's 18-year-old Kiara Hayes reading a poem in her own words. She was one of 2 Unalaska teens killed in a 2019 crash. Today will begin day 5 of jury deliberations in the case, where prosecutors argue a 24-year-old's negligent driving led to their deaths. Dustin Ruckman is charged with 2 counts of criminally negligent homicide. Prosecutors say Ruckman lost control of his truck in 2019, sending it off a 900-foot cliff on Mount Ballyhoo, killing teens Kiara Hayes and Carly McDonald. Letters from friends describe Kiara as a talented artist with a love for poetry, while Carly's family remembers her as kind-hearted and independent. Jurors claimed they were deadlocked earlier this week, but at the judge's insistence, returned to continue reading evidence in the deadly Unalaska crash.
This is a small area that when you get to the crest of that hill, you have a very, very small time and a very small area to get your vehicle to go essentially 90 degrees to the left in order to avoid going off that cliff. Now I submit to you that is a substantial and unjustifiable risk.
The most important part of that instruction is that it has to be a risk so that failure to perceive it, meaning the risk of death, constitutes a gross deviation from the standard of care that a reasonable person would observe in the situation before the accident, not after. The criminal law does not punish people in hindsight.
The jury is set to continue deliberations this morning starting at 8:30. The search for Tony Kronos enters day 37, and friends say they're not giving up. Thursday, police removed boxes from a duplex behind Kronos' Eagle River home, a property owned by an Anchorage police officer. Investigators haven't confirmed a connection to the missing person case, but those close to Kronos believe it's no coincidence, and they're welcoming the increased police activity.
APD's keeping a lid on it, really tight. I mean, we all have cop friends, and they can't even tell us anything either. So, but I think they're doing their best. I think that there's some aspects to this situation that require silence from them until they have their case built.
Police say the investigation is still active. We'll continue to keep you updated on air and online as this story develops. A woman is dead after a shooting at Davis Park in Anchorage's Mountain View neighborhood Thursday morning. Officers responded to the 5100 block of Mountain View Drive just before 8:30 and found the woman with serious upper body trauma. She was taken to the hospital but didn't survive. The investigation is still active, and so far no arrests have been made, but police say there is no ongoing threat to the public. Anchorage Mayor Suzanne LaFrance is unveiling a bold plan to tackle the city's housing crisis by building 10,000 homes over the next 10 years.
Here in Anchorage,
she says the goal is to increase supply and lower barriers to development. The plan shifts focus from zoning reforms to the cost of building, something officials say has been a challenge for developers for more than a decade.
What this ordinance does is addresses the really the inability or financial infeasibility of building these larger projects, so 8 or more units. Folks look around and say, why aren't we building more apartments, for example? And the reason is because the math doesn't work. And so this is really looking at that larger scale, medium to large scale, and really solving that issue in our market.
The ordinance will be officially introduced during the next Assembly meeting on April 22nd. Still ahead, a chilling new record in the Arctic. Sea ice peaked at its lowest level ever recorded last month, and researchers say that drop is putting Alaska's coastal communities at even greater risk. What scientists say this trend means for the future.
Several inches of snow accumulation through the night. I'll let you know a brand new record we hit here in Anchorage, as well as a 7-day forecast. First, the sunrise, 6:49 in Anchorage, 5:55 in Juneau. Your full forecast is next.
Welcome back. 15 minutes past the hour on this Friday morning. And if you haven't stepped out yet, here's a look at kind of what those roads look like. Aaron, winter's just wanting to hang on.
Yeah, we are seeing those wet, slushy conditions, as we've already mentioned. Now, one of the bigger concerns that we're going to see throughout the day, not only with those snow that we're still seeing across parts of South Central, but the snow itself that continues to accumulate on the roads that could provide some traction issues for parts of South Central. We did hit a brand new snowfall record yesterday at 5.7 inches. If you're keeping track, last week we saw 2 brand new record highs. This week we saw 2 brand new snowfall records. So we went from spring last week to winter this week. You can see snow season to date at 59.1 inches of snow accumulation. And across South Central, we've seen several inches, anywhere from about 3 to about 6 inches of snow accumulation. Of course, some higher amounts through Turnigan Pass, Whittier, Portage Valley. Of course, as you head through Summit Lake out towards Girdwood, we've also seen the potential for some of that higher accumulation as well. And we'll still hold on to some additional rounds of some of that light snowfall. Notice for our spring season, we're already exceeding what we saw during the autumn months when we topped out at 26.8 inches of snow accumulation. If we see 3.4 inches of snow accumulation before the end of our snowfall season, this will be only the 4th time in recorded history that spring has seen more snow than autumn and winter combined. So we'll certainly continue to watch that, and we'll still see additional rounds of some light accumulation today. Notice into the valley, not much. We did see a light dusting of some snow. Really, some slick road conditions will be a concern for you. As you head into Eagle River, you notice that light dusting that has been occurring out towards the roadways. You can see that light snow on those roads as well. So take it easy, as you will encounter some pockets of slick conditions. And then here in South Central, through the Anchorage Bowl out towards the Kenai, this is where we've seen the bulk of the precip through the overnight hours into this morning. And we're still holding on to some of that light snowfall. Out towards the Bering, you can see that area of low pressure near the Pribilofs, keeping some snow and winds in the forecast. And of course, we're still holding on to that active weather for both South Central as well as Southeast, although things have quieted down compared to what we did see earlier in the week. So we're still going to hold on to some of that light snow throughout the remainder of the morning. That does taper off throughout the day. We'll catch a break in the activity. Notice to the southwest, we're watching our next storm system that arrives as we welcome in the weekend. We're talking about rain, snow building into Kodiak, coastal regions of South Central, primarily expecting to see some wintry mix, and then inland areas of South Central will stay dry tomorrow. Winds will begin to increase, and then by Sunday and Monday, we could see some pockets of wintry mix spreading for inland areas of South Central. So light snow this morning, temperatures today Once again, remaining fairly cool, mid to upper 30s looking possible for many areas. We could see some breezy conditions. Sunshine for Kodiak at 40 degrees. So as that snow comes to an end, we will see some drier weather. Clouds will stay with us for a large portion of the region. However, through Golcana, we'll see some sunshine. Upper 30s, lower 40s into the valley. Can't rule out a stray area of some light snow. But most of the valley has largely been snow-free compared to what we've seen from Anchorage through the Kenai. That winter weather advisory is still with us and is set to expire here within about the next 5 hours. The 7-day forecast, you can see as we welcome in Saturday, we do break back into the 40s. There's that chance for some wintry mix Sunday into Monday. And we're talking about highs next week, upper 40s looking possible. And I'll go ahead and say it right now. There is the decent opportunity next week that we'll see some parts of South Central warming back into the 50s. So we're just seeing this weather whiplash between spring, winter, battling out, and as we know, spring will ultimately win.
Yeah, looking forward to that next week. Thanks, Aaron. Researchers at UAF say Arctic sea ice hit a record low peak this year, measured on March 22nd at just 5.5 million square miles. That's well below the previous record set in 2017 and part of a worsening trend that's putting Alaska's northern and western coasts at risk. Scientists say less ice means more open water, stronger wave action, and accelerating erosion with no signs of slowing down.
The sea ice reflects most of the heat coming from the sun. If we have open water, we have a lot of more heat absorption by the water body, which again increases the melt of sea ice. So there's an amplification, which we call polar amplification. And so there's a feedback which is striking and can or it causes a lot of changes in the Arctic environment.
He says it's hard to know exactly how much more ice will be lost, but expects even lower records in the years ahead. Alaska's congressional delegation is announcing a $25 million investment aimed at improving air safety across the state. Senator Dan Sullivan says the FAA has approved funding through 2028 in response to a 2020 NTSB report that found Alaska's air crash rate is more than double the national average. The funds will also help expand satellite-based weather tracking, growing from 4 test sites to 16 to improve pilot awareness and safety.
This is a down payment because they said we need to do more. So this is going to go to what they call AWAS. It's essentially weather infrastructure in our rural communities. A lot more airports will have weather reporting systems. And the really exciting thing here is it's using new technology to link to satellites to make this much more efficient and much more timely.
Sullivan called the $25 million a down payment and says his talks with the transportation secretary give him confidence that more funding is on the way. John Thompson also spoke to the senator about a number of other topics, including possibly reopening the base at Adak, the fentanyl crisis in Alaska, and oil and gas development in the state. You can hear their conversation with the senator on our In-Depth Alaska podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on our YouTube channel.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcasts from Alaska's news source automatically and stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.